And we're live, I think. Yes, right. So, today there was a parliamentary thing, and it was supposed to be a vote for it. But, well, it didn't go to plan. And because of that, well, there's a bit of a fallout. So I thought, let's go through that. Let's go through what Theresa May said, and the subsequent questions that took place. In fact, including, because I do want to include his moment, John Bercow's remarks. So before we do that, we should first of all explain what happened before. Since it was announced 2 weeks ago that there will be a vote in Parliament on a meaningful vote on the deal that Theresa May had spent 2 years negotiating, there was talks and there were debates. Theresa May went up and down the country to convince people that her plan was the best plan. Now there are MPs that simply accepted this. There aren't many of them, but there are some. There are other MPs, quite a few in fact, who say this is a bad deal and we should take no deal. Others saying it's a bad deal and we should simply have another general election and then continue renegotiating, even though the EU has explicitly ruled out another negotiating period or an extension to it. This has all culminated in a series of debates that have taken place in Parliament over the last 5 days. And I've watched these debates. They're not too much. They're okay. Not many turned up, but many that wanted to voice an opinion did voice their opinion. And it was very good of the Speaker to let this happen. Another thing during that time, Theresa May was found in contempt, or her Parliament was, the very first time any government has been found in contempt of Parliament. Individual MPs have in the past, by the way, to be clear. Individual MPs have, and have summarily been arrested, which makes you wonder why this government wasn't arrested for the same charge. But it doesn't matter, I guess, in the long run, because that would have just created more anarchy, which I think is hilarious. Over the weekend, there was a growing feeling, a suspicion, that the vote would be postponed. And it would be postponed because Theresa May knew she would not be able to get this through Parliament. This was known. This was known 2 weeks ago when the deal was brought forward, and we saw it and realised, you know what? This is trash. It's not very good. And it concerned a lot of people. This morning, the media, someone leaked to the media that Theresa May was meeting with her cabinet to do such thing, to postpone the vote because she would lose. And if she had lost, a vote of no confidence would have inevitably been triggered. And so, Theresa May today has done that. She's confirmed the suspicions. I would love to know who leaked that, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter too much, because we all knew this was going to happen. We're going to go through the reasons she gives in Parliament, and then go to the other video. There was a live stream, but I haven't found a complete video, because obviously the debate is still ongoing. Not debate, but the questions are still ongoing with other MPs. So I'm going to use Sky's video of Theresa May's statement, and then the stream I was watching, which goes back just far enough to include Jeremy Corbyn's counter, and then we'll address what the Speaker says, and hopefully what the head or the representative leader of the SNP says, and the DUP, because these are important. So, let us... Oh, excuse me. I'm not tired. Not tired in the slightest. Let's go here. Right. France here. Hello, France. Right, where's the video? Here it is. Right, so I need to put my earphones in. Oh, my apologies. For some peculiar reason, I didn't think to do this before I started. Where's the slot? Okay, when you have all blanked out head. There they are. My apologies again. Right. Let's just dive. Hello, Tiger Lily. Hello, everyone in the chat. In fact, I do apologise for not engaging. I just wanted to give a little monologue before we started. So,
I had 3 days of debate on the withdrawal agreement, setting out the terms of our departure from the EU and the political declaration setting out our future relationship.
I meant we should have protests like France is having them. There was, as far as I was aware, I'll click that. There was a. Is there a problem with the snowball? Hang on, let me check my settings first. There wasn't anything wrong when I tested this, so I'm not using Hangouts either, so if there's an issue, please let me know. But there were protests on Brexit over the weekend, and I believe that what was it? I believe that Jonathan Pye was there. He did a video on it actually. I know Sargon of Akkad was there. It's how to trigger a boomer, not a boomer. But of course, if people ask, I'm going to have to ask back because I can't hear the stream to confirm it.
After we have left. I've listened very carefully to what has been said in this chamber and out of it.
Lol. It's interesting that she mentions how she's listened, because over the course of this entire questions that happen, yes, she is listening, but she's still blindly following her own little micromanaged. There's an echo, is there? Right. Apparently my earphones aren't working very well. That's useful. Yeah, so she doesn't really actually, she listens, but she doesn't actually listen. Yeah, that made sense. Echo, echo, let me think. Let's see if... Ooh, which one is it? You know what I really should have done? Turn the bloody light on. That'd help. It's interesting, because I tested this before I started, and apparently there was no audio issue, so if there is an echo, do let me know. Unless you're trolling, in which case, fuck you.
To what has been said in this chamber and out of it by members from all sides.
You mean the part where they all united against you? In other words, because this deal was so bad? I do love there's a debate now, and there was supposed to be a debate. And this debate was important between Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn. It was either going to happen on ITV or on BBC. 2 weeks later, we didn't get the debate because they couldn't agree terms on the BBC because they wanted other people involved, and they couldn't agree terms with ITV for the same reasons, essentially. But we did get a debate on Channel 4 with these 4 MPs here. Now, you know who this is, right? You know, and this is Caroline Lucas of the Green Party. This guy is a Conservative lackey who agrees with the deal and says we should take it. And this is Labour, and I don't know what his name is. I can't remember his name. Might be something Gardner. This is actually, Davey, it was a stupid debate, and the only person who looked good on it was him, was Mog. He was the only one that looked good. And the only reason he looked good was because he did not interrupt anyone. He waited for them to finish, and he calmly gave response. And his whole point, because each got a turn to give a mini speech, and then they took it in turns to dissect that. His was built on trust, and that was, I thought that was actually quite powerful. Since Caroline Lucas's was essentially, we should have a second vote. Labour's was, we should have a general election because only Labour can negotiate this deal. And the Conservative, well, he was like, we should just take the deal. there are people who actually do want to, like, just give in. Be like, fuck it, let's just take this and move on. Those kind of quitters are not very British. I have a strange feeling there's a level of French in them. Pussies. I watched it on YouTube as well, Davey, so yeah, I know what you mean. So let's continue with this.
From listening to those views, it is clear that while there is broad support for many of the key aspects of the deal, on one issue, the Northern Ireland backstop, there remains widespread and deep concern.
But it is not the biggest concern. The fact you sell Northern Ireland out to make them, or keep them in the customs union, is an absolute farce, or with the backstop doing that. But that is not the biggest issue. The entire 585-page document is a massive sellout. What it does is it's a great way of using us to make an example to any other country that wants to leave, that this is how far we will bend the third biggest economy in the EU and the fifth biggest economy in the world. Now you puny little maggots like Hungary can suck one if you think you're going to get a better deal than this. That's what this deal is.
As a result, if we went ahead and held the vote tomorrow, the deal would be rejected by a significant margin.
Yeah.
We will therefore defer the vote scheduled for tomorrow and not proceed to divide the House at this time.
That's a shame, because I would like to see that vote of no confidence. You'd probably have to sell those Poundland pearls of yours to make ends meet once you're done.
I set out in my speech opening the debate last week the reasons why the backstop is a necessary guarantee to the people of Northern Ireland.
But by doing so, and it having an indeterminate amount of time for it to exist, means that we don't have any say on when it ends. Only the EU does. That's not a deal to be made, and that sells Northern Ireland out. Yes, we have to honour the Good Friday Agreement. Yes, we don't want a hard border. Northern Ireland, neither wants a hard border. EU doesn't want a hard border. We don't want a hard border. But the only ones that will actually impose a hard border is the EU, even though they say they don't want it. You made Northern Ireland, the border anyway, out to be a far bigger thing than it should be. No, she won't, Davey, you're quite right.
And why, whatever future relationship you want, there is no deal available that does not include the backstop. Behind all those arguments are some inescapable facts.
You're shit at your job.
The fact that Northern Ireland shares a land border with another sovereign state.
Well, we can change that. I have already come up with a solution. We rename Northern Ireland Scotland, and Scotland Northern Ireland, and we simply take the Scottish people and move them to Northern Ireland and move the Northern Irish people to Scotland, or Northern Ireland as it would now be known. And then we just give the EU New Scotland. The fact that the hard-won peace that has been built in Northern Ireland over the last 2 decades has been built around a seamless border. And the fact that Brexit will create a wholly new situation. Yeah, I always found it fascinating, the peace that was obtained or attained in Northern Ireland and Ireland, since most of it was religiously inspired. You got to think, it's one of those fantastic times where we're actually able to comfortably talk about religion and rightly vilify it. Can't do that anymore, can we? Can we please give the EU Old Scotland? I'd like to give them New Scotland, formerly known as Northern Ireland, and simply move the Northern Irish people to Old Scotland, which we'll call New Northern Ireland. Yes, and actually, it would actually be Northern Ireland by definition, because Northern Ireland on the island of Ireland is, well, northeast Ireland.
On the 30th of March, the Northern Ireland border will for the first time become the external frontier of the European Union's single market and customs union.
No one cares.
The challenge this poses must be met, not with rhetoric, but with real and workable solutions. Businesses operate across that border. People live their lives crossing and recrossing it every day.
Actually, on the subject of businesses, you did have a bunch of business leaders come to number 10. I would assume they were a key influence in the fact that you had to postpone this vote because you were unable to convince them that you were capable of delivering in their best interests on this deal.
I've been there and spoken to some of those people. They do not want their everyday lives to change as a result of the decision we have taken. They do not want a
and yet an unelected commission is doing it for them anyway.
Return to our hard border. And if this House cares about preserving our union, it must listen to those people, because our union will only endure with their consent.
It's interesting that the voices of the little people are ignored further, more and more as the EU gets bigger and bigger. Because the little people, or in this case the Northern Irish, don't actually matter to the EU and their sovereign rule. Lol.
We had hoped that the changes we've secured to the backstop would reassure members that we could never be trapped in it indefinitely.
Lol.
I hope the House will forgive me if I take a moment to remind it of those changes.
Oh, this is going to be a snore fest. I do apologise. I fully expect, by the way, that because this has Sky News on it, it's probably going to get a copyright claim anyway.
The customs element of the backstop is now UK-wide. It no longer splits our country into two customs territories. This also means that the backstop is now an uncomfortable arrangement for the EU, so they won't want it to come into use or persist for long if it...
Actually, that's a lie. They have every intention, they have no reason to revoke it, so they have every intention to keep it in place. Because it means another country is being treated like a vassal state. Because Northern Ireland is the bit in the middle.
It does. Both sides are now legally committed to using best endeavours to have our new relationship in place before the end of the implementation period, ensuring the backstop is never used. If our new relationship isn't ready, we can now choose to extend the implementation period, further reducing the likelihood of the backstop coming into use. If the backstop ever does come into use, we now don't have to get the new relationship in place to get out of it. Alternative arrangements that make use of technology could be put in place instead.
That's very vague. You're giving a statement and trying to assure people of your best intentions, but you've just said new technologies, but you've not indicated what they are. That is very... I really should move my headphones. Doesn't matter.
The treaty is now clear that the backstop can only ever be temporary, and there is now a termination clause. But I am clear, from what I have heard in this place and from my own conversations, that these elements do not offer a sufficient number of colleagues the reassurance that they need.
Yeah, but that's not the main crux of it. I still don't believe, even if you manage to remove the backstop and manage to retain a soft border, that you'd be able to get the votes through. A lot of these MPs are Remainers. They're going to vote Remain regardless. They're going to find a hole and they're going to stick their dick through it. Many are complaining or using it as a reason to talk about austerity or how we will be poorer. But that's not actually... When the impact assessments were released, people misunderstood this. It doesn't mean we're poorer. It means we're not as well off as we could have been had we stayed in the EU. So when people ask the loaded question, would we be better off in the EU or out? Well, because we don't actually have any information that would indicate any kind of forecast of the future that isn't entirely us dying in agony of hunger and of sepsis, we have to say we're poorer outside. But that doesn't mean we're not actually... It doesn't mean for a second we should be absolutely against leaving. We should be optimistic. We shouldn't be a glass half empty. We should be glass half full. we should be optimistic and hope and look at options and avenues for increasing revenue and improving trade worldwide. Think of that positively. Oh yes, but we will be 3% worse off than we would have been if we had stayed in the EU. Okay. But the economy, by definition, based on those forecasts, is still growing. So that doesn't mean we're worse off. We are potentially worse off based on a projection when we have seen many projections already proven wrong during and after the referendum and, well, everything that's happened since, really. I'm sure most of you, the 60 plus people watching, hello, notice the assessments from the Bank of England that said the pound would nosedive. It recovered within 2 days. Are you kidding me? That's not a recession. That's a shock to the system at best. Why is the chat not moving? Oh, because no one's typing. Gotcha. Hello, Sir Blue-Footed Booby. Smash the like button. Yes. Anyway, let's continue with Theresa May, because we've got a few more minutes left.
I spoke to a number of EU leaders over the weekend, and in advance of the European Council, I will go to see my counterparts in other member states and the leadership of the Council and the Commission.
So I'm assuming you won't go and see those of the more right-leaning populist governments, because they don't think you're doing a very good job. And I wouldn't go see Macron. Fucking hell, his approval rating is worse than anyone's, even worse than yours, I think. You know, I should probably go look that up quickly. Give me a second. I'll find out what Theresa May's approval rating is. Approval rating. Because I know that his is like, his is like, what, 17, 18%? Approval rating for Theresa May in the UK 2018. Approval rating is 34%. So Macron's is worse than Theresa May's. That surprises me, all things considered. I will link this in the chat for all of you who want to look at it yourself. Let's continue.
I will discuss with them the clear concerns that this House has expressed. We are also looking closely.
Thanks, Anne. Much appreciated. I'm glad to know people are cracking or rubbing one off to me.
At new ways
And it should be lower, James.
of empowering the House of Commons to ensure that any provision for a backstop has democratic legitimacy and to enable the House to place its own obligations on the government.
I love that you're talking about democratic legitimacy within the Commons, but you mentioned you're going to go and see the Commission. Those unelected people. And you're talking democracy? Are you mad?
To enable the House to place its own obligations on the government to ensure that the backstop cannot be in place indefinitely. Mr. Speaker, having spent the best part...
Hello, unnamed source. Unnamed? Unnamed? I think there'd be an extra N there.
...of 2 years poring over the detail of Brexit, listening to the public's ambitions and, yes, their fears too.
To be fair, the fear. Most of that. Fear. Okay, so fear is an irrational thing. I get when you have an informed thing and you believe in something, you can become somewhat afraid when the government absolutely fucks you, but fear is still irrational. So fuck that.
And testing the limits of what the other side is prepared to accept.
LOL. No one's willing to accept anything less than another referendum. I think we can all agree that that's what many are pushing for.
I'm in absolutely no doubt that this deal is the right one. It honours the result of the referendum.
It does, if you are taking into account 17.4 million people voting leave and 16 point whatever voting to remain. And you're respecting the Remainers at the same time. Because you are giving the EU so much and you are essentially doing a lot to try and remain. And yeah, Theresa May did try and bring back fox hunting and ivory trading. What the fuck is wrong with her? Can you imagine this idiot with one of those fox hunting hats on? You know, the Sherlock hat, is that what it is? Can you imagine her with a shotgun, riding a horse, blowing a horn, with some dogs around her. No. She'd be the fucking horse.
Order. The remainder of the statement must be heard, and I invite...
Hello, Chadwick.
...the House to hear it with courtesy, and for the avoidance of doubt and also...
Dear Stalker, thank you.
...the benefit of those attending to our proceedings who are not members of the House, I emphasise that, as per usual, I will call everyone who wants to question the Prime Minister. But meanwhile, please hear her, the Prime Minister.
I did not perfectly faded delusions. Give me a moment. I'm going to go find that picture. Let's go and find the picture of Owen Jones. Owen Jones colonialism sign. Right. This fake Photoshop sign is circulating. Nope, that's I'm voting UKIP. That's not it. Is it on his Twitter? Oh wait, is it the... No. His Twitter just has a crap video on it. About us humiliation for Tommy Robinson. So that's not... It's not what I'm looking for. Gimme. Oh. There, Google. Right. News. No, I haven't got it. You're gonna have to link that to me, I'm afraid.
Honours the result of the referendum, it protects jobs, security and our union, but it also represents the very best deal that is actually negotiable with the EU. I believe in it, as do many members of this House, and I still believe there is a majority to be won in this House in support of it, if I can secure additional reassurance on the question of the backstop. And that is what my focus will be in the days ahead. But, Mr. Speaker, if you take a step back, it is clear that this House faces a much more fundamental question. Does this House want to deliver Brexit?
Right. We know this. We know the majority of MPs. Oh God, the pause face on the David Lidington. Oh dear, that is. Oh, his eyes look like crackhead eyes. But the majority of MPs do not support Brexit. They support Remain. They want a second referendum. They want a general election. The SNP only want to protect Scotland. The lack of irony is astonishing. But you're going to hear the no's. Thank you, SNP, for contributing like a good old-fashioned peanut gallery.
And a clear message from the SNP, but if the House does it want to do so through reaching an agreement with the EU? If the answer is yes, and I believe that is the answer of the majority of this House, then we all have to ask ourselves whether we're prepared to make a compromise. Because there will be no enduring and successful Brexit without some compromise on both sides of the...
But there's been no compromise from the EU. The Parliament can have compromises on both sides, and I know that's what you just said. But there's been no compromise from the EU at all. That's not how you negotiate. That's how you surrender. What you've done is pulled your butt cheeks wide open and shown them the white flag, which is currently just, tucked into that balloon knot, which the EU has subsequently caved in.
The debate. Many of the most controversial aspects of this deal, including the backstop, are simply inescapable facts of having a negotiated Brexit. Those members who continue to disagree need to shoulder the responsibility of advocating an alternative solution that can be delivered.
So a general election and another referendum vote. But, and I'm gonna... Caroline Lucas is really bad and guilty of this. She suggested that we should have another referendum, but take no or leave off the ballot. If I might play a clip... Oh, hang on. Someone linked in the chat. That might be of interest. Minds.com. Right. Hang on. Let's see if I can... Right, hang on. I will come back here a second. And I will... Oh, that's quality. Thank you, Perfectly Faded Delusions. That is fan-fucking-tastic. Okay. Here we go. I'm voting Remain because Britain's loss of independence is justice for colonialism. Dickhead. Dickhead, dickhead, dickhead. I can see why you take dick. Because no straight woman would knowingly sleep with you. Let's get rid of that. That's quality. Let's go back here now. Fuck him. I'm not fucking him. I wouldn't fuck him dry.
And do so without ducking its implications. So if you want a second referendum to overturn the result of the first, be honest that this risks dividing the country again.
Bill, Jones is a smug fuck, but you gotta think. Remain lost. That smug look was wiped off his face. Like his boyfriend's cum.
Be honest that this risks dividing the country again, when as a house we should be striving to bring it back together.
Lol.
If you want to remain part of the single market and the customs union, be open that this...
Yeah, be honest. Everything this shrew is not. There's a guy in in Parliament. sorry, Mr. Mr. or Mrs. Hippo. Called Dennis Skinner. He's been kicked out of Parliament many times, and he calls her a frit. He actually outright says she's weak. The EU knows she's weak, and I'm hoping we have enough time to show that, because it's so funny, and I will find it if I have to, just to play it. It's worth it.
It would require free movement, rule-taking across the economy, and ongoing financial contributions, none of which are, in my view, compatible with the result of the referendum. If you want to leave without a deal, be upfront that in the short term this would cause significant economic damage to parts of our country.
But apparently the deal would also cause significant damage to parts of the economy. So you have to think, is it even worth it? Maybe we should all just give up now. Link to what? Have I missed something? If it was a picture to Owen Jones, I have it. Because I believe Sir Perfectly Faded Delusions very kindly linked it. Unless it's something else I've missed. I do. Oh, hang on. Oh, God. No, I'm going to keep going for now.
Who can least afford to bear the burden.
Oh, you mean like the poor have the last ages because of austerity, which people still seem to think is somehow connected to Brexit, which it isn't really connected to Brexit. Oh, it's linked to a video. Okay, give me a second. I've been very reluctant to open links because I had this recurring nightmare that Sockie would send me a video or a link to something, and it would absolutely terrify me because, well, it's Sockie. I know what he's like. Oh, Dennis Skinner slamming Theresa May, you absolute yeah, you just saved me a lot of time. Thank you. Right, at the end, I will pull that up because it is so fucking good. Thank you so much for finding that. You're an absolute gem.
I do not believe that any of those courses of action command a majority in this House. But notwithstanding that fact...
To dock that, I believe someone has actually been voted in to succeed to take over from Chancellor Merkel when she steps down. I saw that in the news a couple of days ago, or yesterday even.
For as long as we fail to agree a deal, the risk of an accidental no deal increases. So the government will step up its work in preparation for that potential outcome.
No deal. Fantastic. They're finally starting to talk about it. It's about time, actually, that this had actually been open and publicly stated, because many want it off the table entirely. But I'm someone that believes this deal is worse than no deal, so I believe no deal is the only option. But I'm starting to think that when the eventual vote happens... Hello, Irate Bear. How are you, gorgeous? When the actual vote happens, I do think she'll lose. There'll be a general election and chaos will ensue.
and the Cabinet will hold further discussions on it this week. The vast majority of us, Mr. Speaker, accept the result of the referendum and want to leave with a deal. We have a responsibility to discharge. If we will the ends, we must also will the means.
That's interesting. Bill Owen Jones is a 1%er. I wonder if he paid his fair share in tax, or did he offset it by putting it into a company to then only have to pay business tax, which is only, what, 29% or something? Oh yeah, look at that link, that Perfectly Faded Delusions link to it. It's very funny.
I know that members across the House appreciate how important that responsibility is. And I'm very grateful to all members on this side of the House, and a few on the other side too, who've backed this deal and spoken up for it. Many others I know.
And Prospero, you are quite right. It is refreshing. She has finally addressed that kind of question of no deal. She has mentioned it. It is important to talk about it. Because the government, when David Cameron was in office, they didn't prepare for what would happen if we voted leave. They didn't prepare. No deal is very real. And this actually makes this even worse, because she has postponed this vote, because she knows she'll lose, right? The vote will have to happen at near the end of January, I believe, which I believe is mentioned during the whole debate thing, right? The problem with this is she's going to lose then, and then you have less than 2 months before it's all done. It's over, and we're out. And if nothing is agreed by then, holy shit, the chaos that will ensue. At that point, I'd be okay with the Queen taking back power over whatever shambles of a government people would try and come up with in less than 2 months to then try and, quotes, renegotiate a better deal.
No, have been wrestling with their consciences, particularly over the question of the backstop. Seized of the need to face up to the challenge posed by the Irish border, but genuinely concerned about the consequences. I have listened, I have heard those concerns, and I will now do everything I possibly can to secure further assurances. If I may conclude, Mr. Speaker, on a personal note. On the morning after the referendum, 2.5 years ago, I knew that we had witnessed a defining moment for our democracy. Places that didn't get a lot of attention at elections, and which did not get much coverage on the news, were making their voices heard and saying that they wanted things to change. I knew in that moment that Parliament had to deliver for them. But of course, that doesn't just mean delivering Brexit. It means working across all areas, building a stronger economy, improving public services.
Well, that's... If you can sort of avoid or not talk about Brexit at all and focus on domestic problems, then the EU doesn't really have much input on that. Yeah, I had heard about that bill, and and I know that to earlier. Oh, sorry about the ads, Princess. I do apologise. But I do know that. Hang on, I've missed the comment and totally forgotten. What was it? The Queen does not get involved in politics. I know she doesn't. And I know, careful what you wish for and all that. But look what we have on the table. We have a shrew and who will in a minute or two be speaking, a not career politician, but somebody that has still spent over 30 years in Parliament. Not a career politician, ladies and gentlemen. Not one at all. He buys his suit from the co-op.
Tackling social injustices, to make this a country that truly works for everyone.
The Prime Minister must be heard. The Prime Minister.
Tackling social injustices, to make this a country that truly works for everyone. A country where nowhere and nobody is left behind.
Which is why many will bring up whether or not, when the government talks about scroungers, and everyone else gets morally outraged by it. I'm not knocking the co-op. It's actually a direct quote from Jeremy Corbyn in 1980-something, when he talked about buying his suit and shirts from the co-op. I have a co-op card. I've been saving up all year with my points. I've got like 38 quid on that card now, and I'm going to blow that on mulled wine, because seriously, that's what I'm going to do with it, because I sure as fuck couldn't afford to buy all that mulled wine with actual money. Seriously. Oh, blimey, there's a lot more viewers than I'm used to. Are you all here before the ghost poo? Hello. Let's continue. She's almost finished her speech, and then we'll go straight to Jeremy Corbyn's response. It is a good plan. And mulled wine. I'll get some oranges, get some cinnamon sticks. Christmas Day is going to be... I don't care about presents, because I don't get any. So that's my present from me to me. Yeah, so Blue-Footed Booby, that's why I use my co-op card.
And these matters are too important to be afterthoughts in our politics.
Trump did say the deal was shit, and Theresa May tried to call him out on it. It's like, you don't call out the second largest economy in the world when they tell you the deal on the table, a businessman as president tells you the deal is shit.
They deserve to be at the centre of our thinking. But that can only happen if we get Brexit done and get it done right.
Well, then we don't take your deal, do we?
And even though I voted Remain, from the moment
That's a big admission. We know she voted Remain, we knew she was a Remainer, she campaigned to Remain, but she never answers this question in PMQs. When they always mention her as a Remainer, or say what she would do as a Remainer, they always use Remain and the fact that she voted Remain as a stance, but then she never states it. And that's quite important, because now she's actually admitted it and has finally sort of... Why are you put a timestamp in my chat? Doesn't matter. But the fact she's actually openly said it and explained that she's conceded defeat on that and is doing what was best in the interest of the people, even though by doing so she's also betraying them. It's interesting. Bill Bibbin Tucker Bourbon never had it. I don't think we have it here. I'll have to have a look.
I took up the responsibility of being Prime Minister of this great country.
Only because Boris Johnson was stabbed in the back by Michael Gove. Yes, smash the like button. Smash it all. Donate to my Streamlabs. It's streamlabs.com/drunkenuncle.
I've known that my duty is to honour the result of that vote. And I've been just as determined to protect the jobs that put food on the tables of working families and the security partnerships that keep each one of us safe. And that's what
could you smell the bullshit on that, everyone? Kiss it. Kiss that like button.
This deal does. It gives us control of our
kiss the like button and smash the stream. Fuck.
Borders our money and our laws. It protects jobs, security and our union. It is the right deal for Britain. I am determined to do all I can to secure the reassurances this House requires to get this deal over the line.
Yeah, we're fucking done with that. Let's move on to the next video. Okay, so this, because this is from the 3-hour 20 stream by Fox News, as you can see here, right? They streamed the whole thing, but it only goes back to near the end of her speech. So I've gone to 8 minutes in where she's finished it, which is basically what we have just seen, and we're going to continue with Jeremy Corbyn's response. This is a really packed Parliament. They need to reduce the number of MPs. We shouldn't have these people here. Seriously. He's okay, because he's the master of Sergeant-at-Arms. He's okay there. This here, by the way, this guy here, this man is in his 80s, right? He is ancient. Nobody else sits there, though. Only he does, right? He just doesn't stop. He loves his job. And he is absolutely amazing. He's a bit of a tosser, but the good kind. He's that kind of tosser you want to like. So let's cull the MPs. Yeah, there, you know. He's been booted out 6 times. Last one was for calling David Cameron Dodgy Dave. Yeah, you got it there.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Prime Minister.
Oh, that's a lot of straight white men at the front. Where's Watson and token black lady here?
For a copy of the
Blackfoot isn't actually in the Parliament today. Taking his place will be a different SNP member, and she Well, she uses some rather fruitful language, actually. So, fruitful, fruity, sassy, yes.
Statement before we met here this afternoon. We're in an extremely serious and unprecedented situation. The government has lost control of events and is in complete disarray. Yep. Yes. It's been evident for weeks that the Prime Minister's deal did not have the confidence of this House.
That's because the confidence of the House would involve staying in the customs union and single market, while simultaneously not remaining a member of the EU, which goes against the EU's own rules, because you cannot be a part of those two bodies unless you are a member of the European Union.
Yet she ploughed on regardless.
Oh my god. Look at his ears. He reminds me of something I've seen in a video game. Oh no! He reminds me of one of the elves from Thor Dark World. Dark World? The second Thor movie. Reminds me of one of the elves.
Reiterating, this is the only deal available.
He's a goblin!
Can she be clear with the House? Is she seeking changes to the deal or mere reassurances? Does she therefore accept the statement from the European Commission at lunchtime saying that it was the only deal possible, we will not renegotiate, our position has not changed?
EU has also said, well the court has, that the United Kingdom can and only they can revoke Article 50, and they can do it. Could you imagine what would happen if Theresa May pulled out of the pulled that all that tore it out and said, you know, we'll just stay in, fuck it, let's just carry on now. So we're going to adopt the euro, everyone. I know we just rolled out all those lovely polymer notes, but yeah, Queen's face is getting replaced with European shit.
Ireland's Taoiseach, Leo Varadkar, has said it is not possible to renegotiate the Irish border backstop, stating that it was the Prime Minister's own red lines that made the backstop necessary.
And no, you're quite right. This guy here does not look like my lovely patron Joe, who I recently renamed Dobby because Anne, who was also in the chat, called her Dobby. No, she doesn't look like that. No, but he does look like a goblin. He looks like one of the ones that work in Gringotts.
Exactly. So can the Prime Minister be clear? Is she now ready to drop further red lines in order to make progress?
That's an interesting point about the red lines. See, Theresa May created these lines on things we wouldn't compromise on. And because... No, I did not, Anne. Shut the fuck up. You know nothing. Time her out. Time her out for hate speech. Theresa May came up with these lines, said they were not going to be compromised on. Because she made it public, she showed her hand. People also, at the same time in Parliament, wanted her to show her negotiating strategy, therefore showing her hand entirely. But because she had already drawn up the red lines, the negotiating strategy was already pretty clear. Because of that, the EU were able to compromise, or make her compromise on everything. So it's not rocket science. I'm going to be the biggest dick on the planet, because this is funny. LOL! Moving on.
Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister confirm that the deal presented to this House is not off the table, but will be re-presented with a few assurances?
If the only assurances that they want are the Irish backstop to be taken off the table, I think that's pretty shit. Is Stella Creasy there? I don't actually know.
Bringing back the same botched deal.
Prospero, Theresa May couldn't negotiate a reduction on an eighth. She really couldn't. She'd go there and she'd probably just do what Gordon Brown did with the gold and give them everything for a reduced amount. And they'd probably still make it, oh dear God, Neela. They would probably still manage to swindle her with dirt.
Either next week or in January, and can she be clear on the timing? will not change
Thank
its
you, War.
fundamental flaws and deeply held objections right across this House, which go far wider than the backstop alone. Mr. Speaker,
Is she really your MP? I'm sorry to hear that. I haven't actually heard her speak, though. I know a lot of MPs did get to speak, and this so far is 3 hours 20, but I know it's still ongoing in Parliament today, so she may well have asked a question in that time. But this started at 3:30 this afternoon. Yeah, Diane Abbott dunked on her.
Speaker, this is a bad deal for Britain, a bad
Not as bad as a no deal, though, right? Am I right? No.
deal for our economy, and a bad deal for our democracy. Our country deserves better than this.
Well, yeah, which is why we shouldn't accept the deal being given to us by a bunch of twats opposite you, who negotiated a deal with a group of people who probably spend more time in a bar and fucking each other.
The real
Hello,
damage.
Gogsy. Haven't seen you in a while. How you doing, man?
The deal damages our economy, and it isn't just the opposition saying that. The government's own analysis shows this deal would make us worse off. If the Prime Minister cannot be clear that...
I do want to correct him. Worse off, based on projections. That's it. That's all it is. It's not definitive fact. Our economy would still be growing based on those same projections.
she can and will renegotiate a deal, then she must make way. And if she is, and Mr. Speaker, if she is going back to Brussels, then she needs to build a consensus in this House.
But what consensus? Your party yourselves aren't even consistent on your position. You have MPs that are like, we should have a general election. You have others saying second referendum. You have others saying, fuck.
And since it appears business has changed for the next 2 days, then it seems not only possible but necessary that this House debates the negotiating mandate that the Prime Minister takes to Brussels. There is no point at all in this Prime Minister bringing back the same deal again, which clearly does not support is not supported by this House.
Yes, but that's only not supported by that House, not because it's a bad deal, but because most of them want to stay in the EU. It just happens to be coincidental that it's also a really bad deal. So, yeah. You're off to join that. Right, yeah. You go join that. I will, I'm trying to bring forward 2020 because I'm starting to think, you know, I don't have the Goblin Slayer, man. I don't have the sword. I have Theoden's sword. I mean, I could use that, but it's not really ideal for it.
Mr. Speaker, we've endured 2 years of shambolic negotiations. Red lines which have been boldly announced, then cast aside.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I have to point out, he was one of those begging for the negotiating strategy to be released, and they were against it. But he was okay with this, because then and it's for the same reason, he could then throw this back in their faces. Hello, Brown. I can't pronounce that first name, I do apologise. Yes, I saw his video, and that was pretty funny.
We're now on our third Brexit secretary, and it appears each one of them has been excluded from these vital negotiations. We were promised a precise and substantive document and got a vague 26-page wish list.
Yeah, it was pretty vague. I'm going to put this to the chat, because there have been many that have... Oh, what did Macron just do? Hang on, I need to see that in the chat. Oh no, yeah, that's it. Macron just sent out a beacon that if you wear yellow vests and write, he'll get your way. Right, he did actually, didn't he? He caved into him. But in the chat, I'm going to ask a question. Smash that like button. But I want to ask you to come up with an inventive way to describe Theresa May. Now, when Sargon of Akkad was doing this, and people in the chat were coming up with new names for what she is doing and naming her, I came up with Theresa Dismay, because it made sense. It was a nice play on words. But I thought I'd just put it out there and see what you guys could come up with. Because Theresa May is the very common one. Theresa Mayhem. But since she bent over, she failed on that one a little bit, didn't she? So let's continue with this while you guys... Umbridge. If she has that quill that etches into the back of your hand... Yes, kiss my tentacles. Yes, do that.
And they become the first government ever in British history to be held in contempt of Parliament.
Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. The armoured cars in Paris had the EU flag on them. Are they the ones with the water cannons? Because didn't we buy one off the French?
The government is in disarray. Uncertainty is building for business. People are in despair at the state of these failed negotiations.
Princess Crazy Locks, Cunty McCuntface. Yeah, Theresa May. Oh, that's a. Theresa May we leave already? Crisis May. Vici May. Okay. Teresa Marvel Comics May or Cuckosaurus Rex. Oh, you guys are getting creative. I like this.
And concerned about what it means about their jobs, their livelihood, and their communities. And
I'm not reading that one out, War, because that'll get me absolutely a community guideline strike. Fucking hell.
Fault for that lies solely at the door of this shambolic government.
I find it interesting. In Parliament, you can call them a shambolic government, but you can't call them dishonest. You can't question their integrity, but everything that they have done has been dishonest. It has been misled. You've got liars in your cabinet. You've got liars. Where's Gove? Where's Gove? Where's Gove? I don't see Gove. Okay, well, let's just go with this one. What's her name? Amber Rudd? Yeah, her. Next to the Brexit secretary, who is someone I genuinely have no idea. He looks like his name. If he gets asked what his name is, he does look like the guy that would say, "My name's Jeff."
The Prime Minister is trying to buy herself...
Oh, dear, the names. Teresa Gerbils. Oh, my God. Teresa the Dick May. The reason May disturb... Oh, I like that.
One last chance to save this deal. If she doesn't take on board the fundamental changes required, then she must make way for those who can.
Yet again, restating this belief that Labour are the only ones that can save this. This is great for learning English accents. You're quite right. They do certainly come up with a fair few. Let's skip ahead a little to a statement by... I think actually he's about to give a statement now. I think this is Bercow.
The House.
Right.
And then other colleagues.
Right. I believe Bercow is going to make a statement after this, and this statement is very important. I want you to hear it because it sets a standard, and it shames Theresa May because of what he says. He's publicly shaming her with what he says.
Requires a backstop because that's our commitment to the people of Northern Ireland. He claims he wants to negotiate trade deals, yet wants to be in the customs union, fully in the customs union, that will not enable us to negotiate those trade deals. And finally...
Do you notice Keir Starmer next to Jeremy Corbyn to the left, the guy with the hair? Sir Keir Starmer. He, when Theresa May said wants to remain in the customs union, he nodded. And then trade deals around the world, he shook his head. It's quite interesting.
He says about the uncertainty, uncertainty for British business. I can tell the right honourable gentleman that the biggest uncertainty for British business lies not in this deal, but on the front bench of the Labour Party.
Order. Before I...
Right, so this is... I believe this is the statement he makes, and it's really important.
Look to the Father of the House, and then other colleagues, I want to say the following. Although the government's intention to halt this debate at this inordinately late stage has been widely leaked to the media in advance,
this morning,
I felt it only appropriate to hear what is proposed before advising the House. Halting the debate after no fewer than 164 colleagues have taken the trouble to contribute will be thought by many members of this House to be deeply discourteous. Indeed, in the hours since news of this intention emerged, many colleagues from across the House have registered that view to me in the most forceful terms. Having taken the best procedural advice, colleagues should be informed that there are two ways of doing this.
164 people wanting to speak on a debate is huge, and he, John Bercow that is very good at accommodating for everyone. He will stay there until it is done. He is that guy. When we debated an airstrike in Syria, he was there for the whole debate, and that debate went on for longer than 12 hours. He didn't leave his seat. He maintained order, he kept things going, as is his job, but he could have ended it much sooner. And this is where he shows the options available, and he's reprimanding them at the same time.
The first, and in democratic terms, the infinitely preferable way, is for a minister to move at the outset of the debate that the debate be adjourned.
He did virtue signal his pro-EU stance, but as Speaker he is showing what options are on the table for the debate that was supposed to happen tomorrow before the vote, which has now been postponed.
This will give the House the opportunity to express its view in a vote whether or not it wishes the debate to be brought to a premature and inconclusive end. I can reassure ministers that I would be happy to accept such a motion so that the House can decide.
Thank you, Carbon, for the £2 donation. It's very kind of you.
The alternative is for the government unilaterally to decline to move today's business, which means that the House is not only deprived of its opportunity to vote upon the substance of the debate tomorrow, but also that it is given no chance to express its view today on whether the debate should or should not be allowed to continue.
I have not seen the Andy Serkis video. I would probably go find it, but at the same time I'd probably get a copyright strike on it. What Bercow has said here is the government can just outright be like, nah, fam. That's it.
I politely suggest that in any courteous, respectful and mature environment, allowing the House to have a say, its say, on this matter...
Gogsy, Andy Serkis is the guy who played Gollum in Lord of the Rings.
...would be the right and, dare I say it, the obvious course to take. Let us see if those who have assured this House and the public over and over and over again that this supremely important vote is going to take place tomorrow without fail, wish to rise to the occasion. Mr. Kenneth Clark.
Right, so that was really important and it needed to be heard. I won't pull up the Serkis video, but I will answer the question about the pro-EU rally nonsense, because I didn't pay attention to it. In fact, yesterday I was busy playing one of the guitars behind me and playing video games. And that's about it, actually, because I didn't want to pay any attention to it. Oh, and reading comments, because, you know, I have other stuff to do. And doing overtime, because I like money. But, from what I gathered, it was pretty disappointing. From what I've heard, anyway. I saw some pictures, I saw some video, and it all looked shit to me. Yeah. Oh, look, this guy. This is the MP, this guy here, next to Ian Duncan Smith. This guy, he was at the Channel 4 debate, which I actually have right here. That's him right there, look. Unless I have completely gotten the wrong guy and I'm about to make a massive racist on myself. Before Kenneth Clark speaks, I want to instead play a different video. I want to play this clip in really low resolution, 360p. 360p, everyone. That's right. We get 360p of Dennis Skinner. Ian dunked in shit. That is in fact his name. Why the people that don't want to just leave just filibuster? Because it doesn't work in our government, in our parliament either. The Speaker actually is very good. He'll accommodate people wanting to talk, but at the same time he will actually stop you if you go too far.
Doesn't the Prime Minister realise that she's handed over power not to people in this House, but she's handed over power to the people that she's going to negotiate with over there in Europe?
Well, then this resolution is the right thing for Dennis Skinner, who has amazing hair, I have to admit.
Very weak, and she is. The power that they want is to be able to demonstrate to every other country that might be thinking about getting out of the EU that she's handed over them the power to be able to demonstrate that that's what Britain is doing. The British Prime Minister now doesn't know whether she's on this earth or Fuller's because of the action she's taken. Mrs. Thatcher had a word for it. What she's done today, F-R-I-T, she's frit.
And
I love that. I absolutely love it. He said it. It's absolutely... So, what does frit mean? Right. Where is it? F-R-I-T, frit. Frit means frightened. That's what it means. And it's a word used in Lincolnshire, which explains a lot. So, to be frit is to be frightened. And that is true. This deal is nothing more than someone who is absolutely afraid of what has happened. So as far as I'm concerned, he is right. She is that. Should we... Oh, I want to risk this and play their statements, but at the same time, I can't risk. It's Channel 4. If I play this, I will get a copyright claim. If I don't, from Sky already, or Fox News maybe. Can't risk it. So I'm going to let him have his... This is the Father of the House. He is the longest serving MP in Parliament. Therefore, he is the Father of the House. He is not called Honourable or Right Honourable. He's called the Right Honourable and Learned Gentleman. He's he has a figure. Even though he's not really in the front benches, he is important. But what he says... Yeah, we may as well go through it. I would try and find Mog, but... Yeah, I don't think I could find Mog, because seriously, there's a lot here. Nope. Oh, hang on. No, I'm not going to do. I'm not going to go to him. We're going to go straight to the SNP. This is her. SNP will speak instead, so we're going to go with him.
None of the alternative arrangements that have been. None of the alternative that agreement, and it was not in
a total state of collapse.
Right. She's got some sass on her. Just saying.
The Prime Minister has been forced to pull tomorrow's vote in a stunning display of pathetic cowardice.
Oh, that is bold.
Tomorrow night would have shown the will of this House, but this government is focused on saving the Prime Minister's job and her party, instead of doing what is right for these countries. She is abdicating her responsibility.
But your party isn't interested in all 4 countries, it's only interested in one. And apparently to you, what's in the best interest of all 4 countries is only in the best interests of your country.
Her deal will make people poorer. It will lead to years of further uncertainty and difficult negotiations.
I don't know why there's a little boy in Parliament, but he is doing a fantastic job at the moment.
With no guarantee that a trade deal can even be struck. It does not have the support of her backbenches. Indeed, no support from the majority of benches across this place. No support from the Scottish Parliament. And no support from the Welsh Assembly. Why has it taken the Prime Minister this long to face up to reality. Her deal was dead in the water long before this morning.
Hear, hear.
Last week, it was this deal or no deal. She now needs to be clear with this House about what has changed. Mr. Speaker, Scotland voted overwhelmingly to remain in the EU. But yet again, our views are being ignored.
No, they're not. Much like Northern Ireland's, yours have to be respected, and you have to accept the fact you're a part of a union, and as always, the English beats the fuck out of you.
As they have been throughout this disastrous and incompetent...
Diary of a Boy in Parliament.
Back in 2014, Scotland was promised the strength and security of the UK, but the reality has been Westminster collapse and chaos.
Hear, hear.
We were promised an equal partnership, but we've been treated with contempt. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has lost the confidence of her own benches, and she's failed to convince this House of her plan for exiting the EU. We simply cannot go on like this. It's clear that the Prime Minister is incapable of taking decisions about the future, and that Downing Street cannot negotiate anymore, either with the EU or with the Tory backbenches. What she is really scared of is allowing this House to determine the way forward, and allowing the public the opportunity to...
No, that's not what she's trying to do. She's trying to save her ass. She's not. No, never mind, carry on.
remain
Fuck
in
it.
the EU. She knows she's lost, but she's still wasting precious time.
Yes, and think, when the vote finally does happen at the end of January, how little time then anyone has to do shit. So no deal will have to be the only thing that you can consider at that point.
Mr. Speaker,
You guys have less than 2 months to try and figure a way of stopping no deal from being on the table. Good luck with that.
we need the Prime Minister to be clear about when the House will vote on this deal. This government and the Prime Minister have failed. It's time they got out of the way. Prime Minister, members across this House don't...
I'm done with you, actually. We're going to go here for a second because I want to find one person today in Parliament if they spoke. Upload date. Today. Let's go with that. Did they speak today? Oh, that's not a video. Oh, but there is something we can look at. Let's go with this instead. This is actually